Good evening, everyone. We were seeing servlets. Now we will be trying to see how the servlet will run, what is its life cycle. See, servlet life cycle means the stages where the servlet passes during its existence in the web application. There are three main stages in life cycle. That is, first is initialization, next request handling, and destruction. In servlet life cycle, first initialization, or before that, it is loading and instantiation. That is servlet object instance of the instance we are going to create. Okay, when a servlet is first requested or on server setup, the servlet container loads the servlet class and creates an instance of it. Then we are going to initiate. Um, after the servlet instance is created, we are going to call init method, which is called only once by the container to initialize the servlet. This is used for one time setup activity only. It will be reading the configuration parameters or initializing resources. Then request handling. In request handling, we are going to use service method of the servlet, wherein the client request, for each client request, the container will be invoking this service method of the servlet. The service method is responsible for handling the client request, like such as get method, post method, and all. Get, post these requests and generate appropriate responses to it. For HTTP servlets, this method dispatches requests to do get, do post, etc. based on the request type. Then finally, it is destroy. When the servlet is no longer needed, the container has to destroy the cause this destroy method. So to release the resources which the servlet has acquired, such as closing database connections or freeing the memory before being removed from the memory. Okay, so we are going to free up the memory. If you look at the servlet life cycle, when the client using a web browser over the network interacts with the web server, the request will be given to the servlet on the server side program, and the response that is generated by the servlet is being given to the web server, from the web server to the web browser. The lifecycle methods we have seen, no? Init method, which will be called only once during initialization. Service method will be called for every incoming request. That is HTTP methods like do post, do get, do put, do delete. Every time the request comes from the client, it will be hitting the service method. Destroy method will be called once when the servlet is unloaded from memory. This is the servlet life cycle, which ensures that servlet is properly initiated, handles the request, multiple client requests, and it properly cleaned up when no longer it is needed. That is freeing up the memory or closing the database connections and all. And this is about life cycle of a servlet. Let's see creating a sample servlet. Here is a see, here we are going to write a Java code that extends the HTTP servlet class and deploying it in a servlet container. We need to have a Apache Tomcat server. It is the here are the steps to follow for creating a sample servlet. First, we need to set up the environment. That is, JDK should be installed. Servlet container like Apache Tomcat should be installed. IDE, whichever it might be, like Eclipse, NetBeans, Netscape Navigator, uh, and add Servlet API. That means you have this Java x.servlet API.jar file is added to your project's class path. Here is a simple Java servlet where we are trying to, which will be responding to HTTP GET requests. Okay, we are importing necessary packages. We are importing necessary packages here. So like IO exception, print writer, servlet exception, web servlet, see HTTP servlet, HTTP servlet requests response and all. Defining a servlet by extending HTTP servlet. Okay, override the, see here is public class hello servlet extends HTTP servlet. We are overriding do get method to handle the get request. So if you see protected void do get HTTP servlet request object, HTTP servlet response object, which throws servlet exception or IO exception. Set the response content type to be as text or HTML, which will be does like this: response dot set content type to be as text or HTML, and write the response content to print. We are having print writer out equals to response dot get writer out dot println. In the HTML body we are printing out dot println hello welcome to Java servlets. This is a simple example. If you see the key parts of the servlet code is the servlet class hello servlet is extending a HTTP servlet. Annotations are also being given, which will be mapped to the servlet or to the URL. If directly URL could be given action, okay, that is connected to there. Do get method is overridden to handle this HTTP get request. It generates an HTML response using print writer. For deploying web.xml configuration, if annotations are not used, then web.xml configuration has to be done. In older setups, servlets are configured in the web.xml file only. So if you see XML file, the servlet name is given, servlet class is given, and under servlet mapping, we are giving the servlet name and the URL pattern. Okay, here directory structure will be like servlet class has to be placed in the correct folder, that is web inf classes. In that we need to store the servlet. For running the servlet, first you need to deploy the project to Tomcat by copying your project's .war file, web application archive, to Tomcat's web apps folder. Start the Tomcat server. Access the servlet by opening a web browser and entering the URL. Whatever your app name is, give that and give the route. And the output will be like this. The browser will be displaying this. Okay. So here are the few steps. So this is a sample servlet for you. Thank you all. Keep learning.